Well, today and next week in the back shed, we are going to dig into the tragedy of losing a spouse. About a month ago, I got to sit down with some great friends, Rod Robinson, Angie Bessenbacher, and Linda Chapman. And we sat down in the room and just talked through what it was like for them losing their spouse of right around 50 years, all of them having lost them to cancer. And it was such a great conversation that we ended up going a long time. So we split that into two different episodes. So today and next Monday, you're going to get to hear from them as we dig in deep to what it means to lose a spouse. Well, I am absolutely thrilled right now to be here with three of my friends, people that I truly do consider friends, that people that I look up to, who I've gotten to know over these last 8 years here at Sunrise. And I think today is going to be a special day for you. And so I want to introduce to you Angie Bessenbacher, Rod Robinson, and Linda Chapman, who are here with us today. And the thing that all three of them have in common is they had a long, great marriage, but their spouse passed on, and they're left behind. And so today we're going to dig into what that's like, and all of those things. So we're glad you've joined us. And you ready to jump in here?
Sure.
Okay. First off, let's just start. Tell us who you are. We introduced you already, and most of the folks out there already know who you are. But tell us a little bit about who you are, and how long were you married, and who your spouse was too. That's the important part that we're talking about here today.
Right. Larry and I would have been married 53 years.
Oh my goodness!
In November.
Golly, 53 in November.
Yes.
So how long ago did Larry pass?
8 years, 4 months,
ago. Okay.
6 days.
See, we remember these things.
Yes,
They stay close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rod, how about you and Beth?
We were married 51 and a half years.
Okay.
And, she's been, actually on May 18th, a few days, she will be with the Lord for 7 years now.
For 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember very clearly when I came to Sunrise 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago, that this was still and I didn't even know I barely knew who you were. I didn't know who she was, but I knew that the church was walking with you through this, and we'll talk about some of that here in a little while.
Absolutely.
Linda, you and Dan.
Yes, we were married for almost 50 years. It was 2 weeks short of our 50th anniversary. And I remember Dan saying, "Oh, I'm going to try to make it, honey, till our 50th." I said, "It's okay. Jesus and our daughter Tiffany were waiting for him." Right. And we've been together for 50 years, just dating. So I still feel like it's 50 years. So, and it's been about 3.5 years.
Has it been that long? I guess it's the whole COVID makes time all. I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday.
It does, but it's been 3.5, which still seems like yesterday. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what I'd love to hear, and this can be in no particular order, but as far as amongst the three of you, but tell us and the audience out there that's watching along today. By the way, this is pre-recorded, just in case you haven't all figured that out yet, especially when you see the multiple camera angles, because I'm not that good to have a live production team. But no, tell us a little bit about what was your marriage like? And if you cry, that's okay. If we get choked up, but
we got Kleenex.
We have Kleenex over there. We probably should have a little closer.
Keep your handy.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about what was your marriage like? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Ahead,
okay. Dan and I met in college, and I was a senior in college, and he was too, and we got married young and in a hurry. I don't know why, but we just been dating, and so we've been married for 50 years. And when I brought him home to meet my mom, of course, I was already engaged, so that was kind of terror, like to my mom. How can you know each other that good? But
wait, now how long had you been dating before you got engaged?
not very much, you know. We met, and then we were at college together. So I think we got engaged like 4 months after that, which sounds terrible to me now, but it worked.
Don't worry, there
worked.
aren't a lot of young people that watch this.
It
so
worked out well
it
for us, you know, and we were both in the teaching program, and so shortly went to find a new home and start teaching together. And I didn't have kids until about 2 years after my first teaching job. And Dan found a job at Wheatland High School and was a coach and a drafting teacher. And we just went from there, had kids, and that was the hard part, is the kids. They had to take a lot of attention, and we were still young in our marriage, so that we were still trying to figure out each other with the baggage and everything. So, but it comes along
Understand,
with all
we
of
all
that.
have it, right?
Yeah. But, you know, after that, I think we had a daughter that died, and brought Dan and I really close together. We were close, but brought us really close together because she had been in the hospital for 7 weeks, and Dan and I stayed with her every day. And she passed away. So after that, Dan and I were pretty much together all the time because we were used to that. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable about going out separately, and he kind of stayed with me. So our marriage was very close, you know, after the teenage years, I think. So
how did, and I know this is not the direction we're going today, but you and I have that bond here.
Yes,
we've both lost a child.
Yes.
How did losing Tiffany, how did that play into your marriage?
Like I said, because we were there every day with her, I think it brought us closer. I mean, he had retired by then. I was still teaching. So when I went back to teaching, he was really good about staying with me or taking me to the grocery store. I was having a hard time going anywhere without him. And so that really brought us close. And it was always our deal that even before Tiffany's death, to have a dating night on Friday. And Dan used to tell his kids, too, and his teaching kids, he says the importance of a marriage is to at least have a date night. So, but yeah, we were very close. Yeah.
That's
very close. Yeah.
Okay, Rod. Tell us, I said in no particular order, and then I go, tell us about you and Beth.
Well, I met Beth when I was in the Air Force, stationed in Louisiana, and she was just out of high school and starting college, and she was a best friend of my roommate at the barracks on base. Anyway, it was, I've always told this, the first time I saw her and laid my eyes on her, I said, this is it. And then, you know, and I told her that not too long after I was been around. She said, "You're crazy." You know? And so, but I don't know, you know, it spoke to my heart. And so I got sent overseas for 18 months in the isolated desert. And then I come back and got discharged, and she waited on me. I said, "That's a good clue." And then we got married and moved back out here to California before I could go back to school. And we had a very close marriage. I mean, the two of us, we stuck together through some very, very difficult times because we had our oldest daughter had some real serious kind of mental illness issues, pretty much most of her life. So that was a big thing to go through. And but you know, Beth was one of those I think people say, I think you said, Linda, she just bopped around with a smile through the church and, dressed like this and that, she was a clothes horse, And so, people, occasionally, they'll say, well, what kind of hobby do you have? What do you do? What's your favorite hobby? And I always said, Beth.
Oh, yeah.
She was my hobby because I enjoyed doing things with her more than doing anything else at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
I love to hear that because I feel that way about April.
Yeah.
Where we are in our marriage, and we're almost 18 years in. But I try to tell younger people, like newlyweds, like if you do this right, like it will just get better and better all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Like I love spending time with my best friend.
Yeah.
And so here you are 40, 50 years later, and you still say things like that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They absolutely become your best friend.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's where you want to be all
Right.
the time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, Angie.
I arrived in July of '69, and
I was born in July of 69, Angie.
I arrived in the U.S. in July of '69, and I met Larry the end of August.
Okay, so
And he was just persistent.
Mhm.
And I had plans of going somewhere else after my term working with Rand Corporation, but he said, "No, you're not going anywhere. You're going to marry me."
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I really wish I had known him. Okay,
Yeah.
this is
I didn't.
He's a neat guy.
Well, I said, "Okay, what is it about this guy? He's very kind,
uh-huh.
very gentle, and." Except that one, he said, "You're going to marry me." I said, "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." He said, so we got married 3 months after that.
He won.
After I met him.
You came to the U.S.
Yes.
from the Philippines.
Yes,
In July.
yes.
You met in August.
8 weeks after. I've been here 8 weeks when we met.
Okay.
And he just knew. And I said, no. He said,
And you got married in when? October?
November.
November.
I know. And I said, no, I can't do it. No, he said, you're going to marry me tonight. I need a church. I'll find you a church. He did.
Oh, my goodness.
It was like, I didn't know anybody. He was my friend. He was my friend from the time I met him. He would,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, he was just very patient and very gentle and kind. And so I said, well, I guess there's a potential, is what I said.
Yes, a potential.
That's not really true. God worked on me instead of him. So there were turbulent years raising children, but we agreed before we got married that I will stay home. And that was not my plan. I am a career person. I'm going to work all my life. But I didn't. When the first child came, he said, remember, you told me? So I did stay home. It was a struggle to stay home.
Okay.
It's easier to go to work than stay home with two little
I
kids.
think April would agree with that.
Yes. But then God provided very well with him. Even up to now, he still takes care of me. And I love that.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. So in marriage, we were both, I was so naive, he was too. So it was like two rivers coming together and the turbulence until it settles down.
Right.
That's why you have to wait.
That's a great analogy.
And then it settles down after about 10 years. And then we went to a lot of marriage conferences.
Okay.
About 2 a year. And it taught us how to communicate, how to dig up whatever it was going on with us, and to share and be vulnerable. And it was hard for him. But we learned that through all the marriage conferences we've been to.
Okay. So you
And that,
see that's where I just stop and think so many people give up before 10 years
Yeah.
Yes.
when
it was hard.
any kind of conflict comes to come along, and here you are at 10 and forward on, okay, we need to learn more, we need to grow more, we
Right.
need to.
I wish we learned it earlier, but there was no
Right.
resources at that time.
Well, I've
So we
started to
did.
tell couples that I counsel in marriage counseling, I say, premarital counseling is nice,
Yes.
it's good, it's necessary,
Yeah.
but I really recommend people start getting like real legitimate marriage counseling a year in,
Yes.
where they
Yes.
because
And with the kids, the
right,
little
the
ones
kids
at
will
home.
come
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
Yeah.
and depending on how soon you have them, they can inflict terror in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later we had problems raising kids. Of course, it's part of the marriage.
Yes,
Right,
it is.
And I
right.
remembered him
Yeah.
telling me, assuring me a lot, saying nothing's going to come between us.
Oh, good.
And whatever is the problem, we will work on it together.
That's good.
Oh, that's good.
But every day he would tell me that nothing's going to come between us, whether it was the business, a problem with kids, a problems with the house, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we will stick to it. You're not going back to work. So
That's good.
I have not gone back to work. To us, we thought about marriage as, he will always say, "Han, we're a team. We're not enemies." So we are like, in tennis, you are on the same side of the field.
You're playing doubles together,
Right.
right?
So you can roll around that part of the field. So
Well, and I think that's such an important thing when you have conflict in marriage.
yes,
To realize, to stop in the middle of the conflict and realize, no, they're on
Yes.
my same team.
right,
I'm not
yeah,
against them. I believe the best in that person, and I
Right.
believe that
right,
they believe the best in me, right?
right. And the trust is so important. Like he trusted me, he would trust me about taking care of the kids or whatever it is that happened.
Yeah.
And he would trust that I would tell him even if I didn't want to talk about it. He's not going to stop. He sits there and says, "I'm just going to sit here until you tell me what's wrong."
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong. "Oh, yes, something's wrong." And he would just sit there, and
Yeah.
he was just really very patient. And
Okay, what did John do this time?
yeah, right. And then we sat on, we were coming to Sunrise then,
Uh-huh.
and we sat on we came in 78, so about 1980, we said, how come our ministries are separate? So from then on, we
You were together.
ministered together to the little ones, and then up all through high school
that's
group,
good,
and
yeah.
then we
Yeah.
did the marriage thing because someone asked us to do the marriage group,
Yeah.
the home
Fantastic.
builders.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
I think high schoolers was the hardest for me. Dan was teaching high school, but
Oh,
to raise high schoolers, I was, that was a difficult time for
they're having a
Dan
difficult
and I
time
because we were,
yeah.
kind of conflicting on that and
Oh, yeah.
disciplining, and so that was the hardest part.
Oh,
I
even-
think my marriage, his marriage too, but
The
dealing with me.
disciplining the kids is
Yes. High
diff-
school was
we were
hard.
so
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then he would always tell the boys, the answer is no until Mom and I agree.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
That's
And-
good.
yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
and it was just going to school event or something until he wouldn't tell that I'm the one holding back. He said until we
and
agree.
the kids are going to try to pit you against each
Oh,
other.
yeah, they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
do they
Yeah.
still do that in adulthood?
Yeah, oh yes. I remember one
I
time
don't
we
think
were,
so now. I think
Yeah.
it's good.
I
now.
mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
it's,
I remember having dinner and one of them was not behaving well or didn't appreciate it and said something, and he said, "You don't talk to my sweetheart like that."
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
sticking it.
Whoa, I said,
Yeah.
"I am,"
Yeah.
but yeah, that was really. I still remember that.
Oh, boy. Okay. So this is, and I just realized a second ago what I said, that which was very awkward. I said, they still do that to you? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
She's not here anymore. What was the leading up to the loss like for each of you? I mean, I think each of you were in a case
yeah.
with cancer,
Uh-huh.
cancer,
Cancer.
right?
Yeah.
And so with that, what was that season up until they passed like for you?
Yeah. I can start, I guess. Okay, it was going to be on the 50th. We were starting on our 50th year of marriage, and I had in January made a cruise lined up for us. I'd just gone and set it all up, and that was in January. And then it was in February, and Dan and I were greeting, and we came and greeted here, and we went outside to leave, and I looked at his face, and it was yellow. And I know it had been that way before, and he had a blood clot. But I looked at him, he wasn't feeling well, and when he was greeting, and so I thought, okay, it was just something like a cold. But I looked on his face, and it was yellow, and so we went right away to the ER, and they took blood work and everything. So we found out something definitely is going on in his blood, and we found out from there he had cancer. So we stayed in the hospital. And then we went to San Francisco together, and they were going to take part of his liver out, see if that was going to work. Even by then, the cancer had spread too fast, so they sent him back. And that was not during COVID, so I was really glad that I could be with him always in the hospital. I don't know what I would have done not being with him in the hospital. I hear people now that can't be there. That just wouldn't have worked for me. I had to be there. So eventually he went through chemo, and I always went with him and sat with him while he was going through chemo, and then immunotherapy. And when the immunotherapy came on, it wasn't working. And we basically knew, they basically told us neuroendocrine cancer was not going to be any better, he was going to lose his life. So sure enough, he got sicker, and we did have hospice care come in, and which was really nice. Again, he didn't have to stay in the hospital. And they got the bed set up, and I had an early kind of Christmas tree, but it was a Thanksgiving tree up, and so he could see, and it was very comfortable to be in the house where he was in the house instead of the hospital. And hospice came in and told me how to do things and how to, give him liquid for the pain and stuff. And I would sleep on the couch, which was, easy for me. I had to be with him, and it was like he actually passed away on Thanksgiving Day. Mm-hmm. And both my boys were just exactly there at the time, and so was the hospice nurse. And I remember my son asking her, how much longer is it going to be, and away from him, and she said it won't be too long, but maybe tonight or something like that. So we were all three of us there, and he took his last breath while we were all there. So it was nice because my boys were coming and going and coming and going, and this is when we were right there. So we knew that he went to heaven, and but it was good that we were all there, and the lady left for a while, and she said, I'm going to be out here. You call me when you're ready for me to call the place to pick him up. Yeah. And we sat there with Dan and rubbed his face, took his hand, and just talked. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. And then,
it's seared in our memory.
Yeah. And then they came in the service. I forgot what they're called, but they came and picked him up. And I told my boys, I said, I don't want to be here to see him, go. And they picked him up, and I came out and, just laid in his bed for a while. So that was hard. But
that was hard.
My kids were all there. My two boys were there, And, I told Dan, I said, you're going to be seeing Tiffany. You see our Lord and see Tiffany. So, yeah, I feel really good that Tiffany and Dan are together. So it was easy for me not easy, but, it was comforting to know that those two would be together, daddy and daughter. So, yeah.
Linda, is there any, I don't even know how to ask this question. And if it doesn't go well, we'll just edit it out.
Yeah.
But is there any comparison between losing Tiffany and losing Dan?
There wasn't really. It's a different thing because I had, with Tiffany, we were with her in the hospital every day for 7 weeks. Yeah. And yes, it's your child there. And we watched her go through things, and we thought she was going to make it, and then she didn't make it. When Tiffany died, it was very hurtful for both of us. But I had Dan, and Dan had me, and we understood. Right. When Dan died, the boys went home, and it was just me. And I didn't really have that connection to talk to anybody. So it is a little bit different, yes, Losing a child is terrible, as you know. But again, Dan and I were there every
were
day
there
with
with
her, and so we understood. We're the only ones that understood what she went through, and that was comforting that we knew.
And like you had said earlier, it really brought you together.
Bonded us.
Bonded
Well,
us, yeah.
definitely for so long, I couldn't go to the grocery store. Dan would go and sit in the car, and we were. And so even afterwards, for a while, that's what made us close. We were really wanted to do everything together, and we shared everything, talking wise together that way. Made us much closer. So, yeah.
I think cancer gave us an opportunity to look back and look ahead for me.
Yeah.
He was very concerned about me because he knows I'm such a Freddy cat. So he would say, keep going to Mom's, keep going, do Mom's thing, all those things. Keep doing blah, blah. He was just very encouraging. In fact, that's where the sewing room came from. It was this idea that I teach children how to sew. He ordered everything and had the room ready for me, my sewing classroom, before he passed. Although none of the machines were delivered until after he was gone.
Oh, yeah.
But he prepared me that way, but I don't think I'm ever prepared for the grief. And he talked to the boys.
I don't think you can prepare for grief.
Yeah.
No.
He made sure he talked our sons away from me. He said, I need to talk to them. And he closed the bedroom door and he talked. I don't know how long he talked to them.
Yeah.
Of course, I wanted to know what he told them, but
Yeah,
they're
Dan
not going
did the
to tell
same
me.
thing to the boys.
Right. And I like his foresight because way, way early in our marriage, he said, hon, if this happens, I want you to think about it, what we will do. I said, no, I'm going to go first. But of course, that didn't happen. And he would say, remember what we talked about? Remember what we talked about, what we agreed, which settled me, helped me accept it. Not easily, but accept it, and then grieve through the process.
True.
But I admire that about him. I'm not long range planning, but he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I found that was easier when you do know they're going to die, and Dan and I took care of things.
Right.
Like mutual funds, and we had duplexes, and we could sell those and get that out of the way beforehand. So that
You have to take care of things, yes.
So he had an interest in leaving things stable and in place for
and
you.
that I will be cared for
Yeah.
after until I go. Yeah.
Which is amazing. I mean, I think of people I know where they've lost their spouse and there wasn't a plan in place, and it's just, not just you have the grief, but then you have the whole
mess
of trying to figure out how
I've
to.
known a lot of people like that too.
Right.
It's just really, really more difficult. Yeah, if you don't have.
And the children were young then, so I said, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But then he said, hon, we have to look ahead. You never know what God has planned.
Yep.
So I like that.
Yeah. Beth had been poor health for a number of years, different things. And she had what she called down in her abdomen. She said, there's something down here, it's just not right. They did tests. They did tests with look down and up and everything. And they just never did go far enough and so on and so forth to actually determine exactly what it was. And then she started getting bloated. She said, I'm putting on weight, I'm bloated, what's going on here? And she just started to swell up and immediately went to the doctor and they did a CT scan and they said, sweetheart, you got stage 4 cancer. And so she only she suffered a great deal of pain for only 4 months, which was a blessing. But in those 4 months, she Of course, I had a hard time accepting it. She would say, well, because they offered an option. They said, we could try chemo. It might get her 6 months. It might get her 2 years. And so we got all set up to do that. And she made the decision. And the first injection of chemo, she had a heart attack. So that was the end of that part of her treatment. So for those months, she encouraged me because she said, I'm not going to make it. And I said, we got to try something.
You're and if you all don't know Rod, Rod is a problem solver.
Yeah.
If you need help on something, Rod knows
Yes.
the answer.
Definitely, yes.
Except for those particular
Yeah.
answers. So anyway, we tried an alternative thing, and gee whiz, maybe it's going to work. And no, and so she was at peace with it. I'll tell you a story. Pastor Rich came to visit us several times at home. And one of the times when she was getting weaker, he came in and was talking with us. And then he was about to pray. And she says, okay, Pastor Rich, how can I pray for you?
Oh, yeah, sounds like death.
And
Yeah.
it really was amazing that she was in tune with the Holy Spirit, that this is going to be okay, and how can I pray for you, Pastor Rich?
Yeah.
Instead of him praying for us.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
He remembers that too. Pastor Rich does, yeah.
He does remember that.
Yeah.
He does remember that. So we went through several months there, and then one morning, and she'd had the hospice nurses coming in, and one morning she just seemed incoherent, and so I rushed her to the ER, and ultimately she went to be with the Lord, and it was the time that the night before she was feeling real well. One of her friends came to visit her in the hospital. They sit up and talked. And that evening she says, go on home, get some rest. You're exhausted. I said, ask them, I said, is that going to be okay? And they said, yeah. Well, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a call. And they said, you need to get over here. So I did. And when I got there, I picked up the phone. I called Pastor Rich. I said, she's about to go home. And he came to the hospital, and he was holding one hand, and I was holding her other hand and praying as she took her last breath. So I'll always remember that and be so thankful for Rich to being there for us. Yeah.
And you were there too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was there. I remember our kids don't live here, and I remember trying to get a hold of them to tell them what's going on. And anyway, it's interesting because out of that, I was kind of bitter about the doctors and so on and so forth, and they could have checked further. But then after I went to Griefshare and I learned through Psalm 139:16, God knows the moment you're coming into the world and the moment you're going to go home. So I
think that verse helped me a lot too. There's
yes.
nothing you can do. It's already
Right.
already planned.
That's right. It's planned.
Do the best you can. Yeah.
Well, Rod, you just set up the segue into what we wanted to talk about next is just how you walk through that loss, how you walk through that season. It is, for most people, you have, for each of you, you had that time where you had to anticipate this was coming. Then it happens. And once it happens, people gather around. Everybody's there. Rich is there in that moment.
Yes.
Thanksgiving Day. Linda, I remember, I think I called you that day when I had found out about it, and people are very interested.
Yeah.
And then you get to the service, and you have the service, and usually that is a comforting, powerful time, and again, people are around you. And then after that service, everybody walks away from the service, and it's now the beginning of the new normal.
Right.
Yes.
So
It's tough, yeah. And that house is lonely, and
Yes.
it's crazy. My house was, I could hear every creak of the wood in the house. You know, Dan being next to me all the time. I don't ever hear any noises, but now I hear everything. Like people are coming through, and I still hear that noise now.
Yeah.
So, but it's you do. It's
and not a one of you lives in a small house either.
Yes. I remembered reading the book you shared about Grace Disguise.
Yes.
I remembered reading it, and that's what I thought. He's everywhere in my house, outside. His hands are everywhere, but he's nowhere. You know, that was the feeling that I got, and I still feel that sometimes. And it was kind of hard. I would come home from church or something, and I would say, "Hon, I'm home," and then I realized he's not home. That was very hard.
Yeah.
But I had very good family. The family, his brother and sister-in-law stayed with me for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then I had a nephew and his wife, and their little boy camped in my extra bedroom for another couple of weeks. No one left me. In the night especially.
Right.
It was very
The
hard.
night is hard.
The night is
Very
hard.
hard, yeah.
And I'm thankful they were there. They were there for me for that time, the first month, after everything is over.
Okay.
Right. And I went to Griefshare.
Yeah, all of you have done Griefshare.
Yeah.
Yes. I went to
Well,
Griefshare.
you lead in Griefshare.
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to Griefshare for my daughter, so it was different. And it just so happened that they were all people that lost children, so that was a little bit different. So I was familiar with that, and then of course I went to Griefshare after Dan's death too, and other people were there that had lost their spouse, so that was good too. I can talk to somebody that understands that part.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I remember the title, and I wondered about it. Journey from Mourning to Joy. And so I was expectant. I think I was the first one to take it 3 times. Because I felt like I wanted to know the tools I need, because I want that joy. The mourning part is very difficult.
It's painful, and it exhausts.
And it opens up a lot of, we have the primary loss, but we also have lots of tertiary losses, secondary losses, like the yard and the house and all the things, or the children, all those things that happen. And there's no partner to talk it over with, or how I feel, or even about the sermon. We would go home on Sundays and talk about the sermon until we had exhausted it. And so I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So the partnership was gone, and it was very hard. But Griefshare gave me tools to use. Not all, I call it my toolbox. And the third time, it helped me really understand why that was a tool for when I needed it. Not, I don't use it all the time, but like your equipment, when the tool is needed, it's there.
It's there.
Right.
Right. You know where to find it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there were 2 specific events. I prayed, Lord, okay, bring me there. And it wouldn't happen. And then the boys, John and the girls, took me to a snowmobiling. And when we got to this dangerous place, the lead guy said, I want you to ride with me. I don't want to ride with you. I said, I don't know you. No, he said, but you have to trust me. And all of a sudden I thought, God's telling me something. And I told him, he said, when I move this way, you move this way. You just have to follow my lead and don't look around. And I said, that's God talking to me. And I cried through the whole thing. He said, I'll take you there. Oh, Lord, you're talking to me. Because I was looking for it.
That's interesting.
The view, he said, you will love the view when I take you there. And I loved the view, but then he didn't know, because you wear this heavy mask, no one knew I was crying so hard. And then he brought us down, and I thought, Lord, I wrote God a letter that day. I said, okay, take me there at your time.
Well, as I sat there and listened to Angie tell that story about being on the snowmobile and having this moment where God was in essence, releasing her to move forward. That was just a powerful moment as we sat there in that room. And I hate to do it to you, but that's where we're going to cut it off for today and invite you to come back next week and hear the rest of the story as I sit down with Linda and Rod and Angie. Thanks so much for joining me on The Back Shed, joining us on The Back Shed this week, and we'll see you next week right back here at the same time.